Good morning and welcome to the Adult Education and Workforce Development Statewide webinar for June 13th, 2018. I am Jerry Hafner. Joining me this morning is Marilyn and the Adult Education team, plus some very special guests which you will meet in a few minutes. We have a full program this morning, but I wanted to share this story about a lady named Margaret Mills that I shared with the group last week. I'm sure that you will be touched. She entitles her story, My Journey to Literacy. I am the youngest child of 8 siblings. As you can imagine, living in a household with 8 children got pretty crazy at times. Money was tight, but my parents worked hard. My father was the biggest advocate of education because he did not have a high school diploma. I enjoyed reading books throughout my elementary school years. Unfortunately, that changed when she went to middle school. My middle school peers began to bully me because my family was poor. I didn't have the best clothes or shoes, so I did look different than everyone else. It was then that my personality changed and the things I enjoyed, such as reading, went to the wayside. What used to be a love for school turned into feelings of dread and depression. I stopped attending school during my junior year of high school. I got dressed every morning just like I was going to school, but I never attended any classes. I hid in the bathroom and killed time during the school day by walking aimlessly around the school campus. I went home and acted like it had just been another school day. I was able to keep up this deception until my parents received a letter from the school inquiring about the reason for my absences. Both of my parents were devastated, to say the least. After that, my life became extremely tough. I got pregnant at the age of 18 and had my first baby at 19. My parents were not happy and refused to help me raise the baby. Over the next 10 years, I got married and had another child, got divorced, was fired from my job, and ended up having to move in with my parents. Finding a good job was extremely difficult because I did not have a high school diploma. I ended up working for 13 years and was frustrated the entire time because I couldn't accept better opportunities due to my lack of education. On a trip to a library to check out a book, I saw an ad for a high school equivalency program. I started this program at the young age of 58. Eventually, Margaret earned her high school equivalency. However, she said, I was still not happy about my low reading ability, and I began searching for reading tutors, which is how I learned about Indy Reads. Starting the Indy Reads program was a real struggle, but I have made great progress thanks to amazing volunteer tutors as well as instructors. It feels amazing to pick up a newspaper, book, magazine, the Bible, and even my own mail and be able to read and understand it. I am planning for a bright future as a certified medical assistant working at a family practice clinic. I want more for my children and grandchildren than I achieved for myself. I am proud to say that all of my children are high school graduates and my oldest grandson is in college. Age is just a number, so I won't let my young age stop me from completing my goals. What a wonderful story. Thank you to Margaret for sharing it. Let's journey up to Northeast Indiana. Jason Miller began adult education at Impact Institute's LaGrange class site in May of 2016. Jason is a young Amish man who originally quit formal schooling after 8th grade to begin learning a family trade. Once Jason began ABE classes, he quickly realized that if he wanted to accomplish his goal of becoming an EMT, he would need to overcome some obstacles, not the least related to technology and academics. Jason said, "For me, the biggest challenge was probably learning just how to study. I haven't been in school for 5 years, so things like vocabulary and studying were hard for me." Jason overcame these challenges. He earned his HSE, and he is well on his way to realizing his dream. Let's go down to southern Indiana, to New Albany. Coming to the RVR Adult Education Center in New Albany has opened many doors for Leslie Gibson of New Albany. I am a single mother of an 8-year-old little girl. Continuing my education is the most important goal I have set for myself. While I was enrolled at the classes at RVR Adult Education, I was approached by a career coach from the Work One office. A week later, I decided to call the career coach I had met. I came in the same day to meet with her. That week, I was signing up for classes that forever changed my life. I was able to attend classes through youth services to gain better experience in the career field. I completed my classes, and then I was to be placed into an internship at a place of my choice as long as the employer of the company would agree. 1 week later, I received a phone call, and I was being asked if I would like to come in for an interview at the Work One office. The Work One office, were offering me to do my internship there as an administrative assistant. Being on an internship has been an amazing attribute to my life. The experience, along with the knowledge, and now knowing I can do anything I put my mind to, has made me much more confident than I once was. Both the Region 10 Adult Education Center and the Work One office have helped me grow into the woman and mother I wanted and needed to be. I now have the tools I need to grow in life, career-wise, and at home. Such wonderful stories. Thank you so very much for sharing them with us and giving us the opportunity to share those stories throughout the state of Indiana. Let's dive into a number of updates. Several of the NRS tables are changing and new ones are being added. The new NRS reporting tables for program year 2018-2019 begin on page 154 of the printable NRS Technical Assistance Guide that you see on your screen. Next month, during our statewide webinar on July 18th, we will go over the new reporting tables with you for the new program year. We have mentioned this in previous statewide webinars, but I want to remind you again, the new assessment, distance education, and data policies have been posted to our website, amplifyae.org. As I've said in previous webinars, there were not significant changes to these policies. However, the assessment policy reflects the requirement to use TABE 11 and 12 beginning in just a couple of weeks on July 1st. A contractor finished the teachers and administrators handbooks that you see on your screen, and these documents are now posted to our website as well. We have a new HSE Honors Diploma coming, and that policy went out for comment and will be posted to our website. The new HSE Honors Diploma goes into effect July 1st, 2018. We are getting very close to the end of another program year, and as I always ask our staff, how are we doing? How are we doing with basic skills? How are we doing for high school equivalencies? This is our NRS Table 4 as of Monday. I've highlighted some areas for you. Again, this is difficult to read. You can, when we post these slides, you can print that table off and do some comparisons with your own local program. However, here's sort of the Clip Notes version of what we're seeing on Table 4. What is our instructional impact? On Monday, column H of Table 4 showed a completion rate of 60.26%. This is the percentage on your screen. This morning when I ran Table 4, looked at column H, we were up to 60.57%. As you know, and as our AECs and our professional development program has discussed, 60% was our goal. Last year, 2016-2017, we finished at nearly 58%. Also on this screen is the current breakdown of ABE and ELL for measurable skill gains. As you can see, while we're at 60.26% overall, there is a 7 percentage point difference between ABE and ELL. I would like just to take a second and pause for some applause. We are over 60%. You all met the goal. And more importantly, our students are meeting the goal every day. We have never in adult education in Indiana have reached 60% on Table 4. And as our colleagues' words up on the screen, this is great. Thank you for your hard work. I would not be surprised when the final numbers are tallied in a few weeks that we probably top out at 61 or maybe close to 62%. Fantastic job. Again, thank you so very much. We have mentioned this several times before, but blending distance education with traditional classes, especially for ELL, produces higher percentages for measurable skill gains. I would continue to encourage your instructional staff to use distance education, not only for our ABE students, but certainly for our ELL students. There is nearly an 8 percentage point difference in measurable skill gain when distance education is used. As I said, we're at 60% now. NRS Table C, as of Monday, was 67.58%. Last year, we were just under, on 4C, distance education, we were just under 65%. Let's look at distance education's effect on ABE, ASE, and ELL. As you can see, distance education really benefits ELL students. NRS Table 4C for our ELL students is 72%. Again, even distance education helps our ABE, ASE students as well. For them, Table 4C is nearly 67%. How can we still improve between now and the end of the program year? In the remaining days between now and June 30th, please continue to emphasize post-testing eligible students, target instruction. Please be sure students are ready to post-test, and please follow up with your instructional staff and the eligible students that are ready for post-testing to ensure that post-testing takes place between now and the end of the program year. Let's turn gears and let's take a look at HSEs. Our pass rate is higher than a year ago. We are at 77.21%. A year ago, we were at 75. For the entire program year, we were at 75.55%. That is fantastic as well. The summaries on your screen include data, again, through Monday for the program year. At this point, we are just a little bit behind on the number of HSCs. The task summary on your left is for all examinees, including participants who did not study at an adult education program. We are down about 450. The enters summary, which is on your right, is just students who are attributed with an adult education program. We are down just 800, about 800 in that number from a year ago. So we will likely be down in HSCs, but our enrollment, as I will show you, is also down. But our students, particularly with the basic skills and the measurable skill gains, you're doing good work with them. They are achieving and they are moving forward. This is why it's important to target, particularly in the remaining days of the program year, levels 4 through 6, to get students ready as soon as possible for HSE testing. 8% of the level 4 through 6 students remain in their initial level. 8%. Almost 24% of the total enrollment has separated without any gain. And while we want to continue to work on this percentage, it was not uncommon in the past to have more than 1/3 of our students leave the program without any gain. And as you can see, currently we're at 23.79. Certainly we don't want to lose any students, but that certainly is a percentage that is much better than what we have done in the past. And again, you're to be congratulated for doing that. Also, this is why it's important to target levels 4 through 6 to get students ready as soon as possible for HSE testing. As I said, about 8% of the ABE, AST level 4 through 6 students remain in their initial level. So we've got 1,598 ABE, ASE students in levels 4 through 6 who have not received an HSE, who are still in that level. So we can still work with them and hopefully get them that HSE or get them that measurable skill gain before the end of the program year. Here is our enrollment. The enrollment this year, as I indicated, will likely be down from a year ago. I will tell you this, the federal adult education program overall across the country is experiencing lower enrollments as well. The federal adult education program was down 4% in 2015, 2016. 43 states saw decreases ranging from 1 to 20%. Dan is going to go over and talk about some of the enters errors that can be cleaned up between now and the end of the program year that might have some further impact upon our final numbers. Dan?
Good afternoon. This topic is like a rinse and repeat. We have been talking about it quite a bit, and you should have gotten some emails from the PD team. The state, as Jerry said, has done a phenomenal job. We're at 60+%. And with cleaning up some of these errors, there really aren't tons of them, but with cleaning up errors and doing some post-testing, we're thinking we might be able to actually hit 61 or 60, actually 62%. So please go through and check these. As you see, invalid age, 120. I don't know if we have students who are 3 years old or what, but try to go through and see if those are in your program. No parent signatures, race missing, and no application dates. So as Jerry said earlier, post-test with targeted teaching, and also the most important thing is to have this data as clean as possible, if not perfect. Okay, again, clean up your errors, post-test, and get students ready for the HSE as quickly as possible because we don't have too much time left for this year. And thanks so much.
Thank you, Dan. We have a very special guest here this morning, and Marilyn is going to introduce.
Good morning, colleagues. As I've spoken with directors and instructors across the state, One question that I'm often asked is, how do we partner with our area employers, and how do we implement work-based education classes? One model of this is successfully happening in Bloomington, Indiana, between Cook Medical and the Broadview Learning Center. Cook Group President Pete Yonkman is with us today to share an employer's perspective on workplace education and programming. And we need to do a little bit of a technical switch here, so just give us a second.
That was an impressive switch. Well done.
Thank you. I've been practicing my entire life for this.
So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to come today and speak to you. Thank you, Marilyn, for the invitation. I was excited to do this program this webinar, because I know that all of you are passionate about adult education and workforce development, and that's something we've been thinking a lot about at Cook. I'll start, well, actually what I want to do today, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to introduce you to the company I work for and talk a little bit about the approach that we've been trying relative to adult education, and then hopefully maybe give you some ideas to think about if you're interested in partnering with businesses in your local area and and some tips for doing that. So let's go ahead. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Pete Yonkman. I'm president of Cook Group and Cook Medical. I've been with Cook for 17 years now. I was born and raised in Indiana, grew up in Crown Point, graduated from Crown Point High School, and went to Indiana in Bloomington, IU in Bloomington, and IU Law School in Bloomington. I've lived and worked most of my life now in Indiana as well. Married to my wife, Janelle. We have two boys, age 11 and 5. It's Vic and Leo. We spend a lot of time at the baseball park lately. So the company I work for is called Cook Group and Cook Medical. For those of you who are not familiar with it, we're a privately owned family company started by Bill and Gail Cook in 1963 in the spare bedroom of their apartment. That's them in the lower right corner. That's their son, Carl, who at the time was 1 or so. He's now 55. Unfortunately, our founder, Bill, passed away 6 years ago, but his wife is still very active in the community, and Carl is still at the company every day. The first 3 products we started selling back in 1963, at the top right picture there, we sold a wire, a needle, and a catheter. And those are the basic tools of doing minimally invasive medicine that was really starting sort of as a revolution back in the 1960s, and we've grown from there. Today we have more than 12,000 employees across the globe. We make 900 different product lines, 16,000 part numbers. We're in every area of the hospital. If you were to go into the hospital, you would see a Cook product somewhere in that facility, in those departments. These are some examples of the products that we make. So we make things like wire guides, needles, and catheters still those same products that we started back 50 years ago. But we've advanced things like angioplasty balloons, stents, stent grafts, all of the tools that physicians use when they're doing minimally invasive medicine. We also have expanded over the years, so we started in medical devices, and that's by far our biggest part of our company, but we also have other business lines that we're in. For example, some of you may have been down to the French Lick in West Baden Hotel. Those are Cook properties and really came from Bill and Gail's passion around historic preservation and their 30-year involvement with those facilities. We have some property management companies. We do service businesses as well, provide services to our employees. For example, in Bloomington, we have a primary care facility where we provide primary care for our employees and about 6,500 covered lives in the community. We also have a life sciences division where we sort of are cutting edge of medicine. These are things where we do tissue engineering, we do some cell therapy stuff, so sort of that next generation of medicine beyond just medical devices. And then, of course, our medical device company. Just to look at the people side of our company real quickly, we have, as I said, more than 12,000 people across the globe. If you look at nationally, we have about 9,000 people. And then in Indiana, we have more than half of our global workforce is right here in Indiana. And if you look down in southwest central Indiana, we have 6,000 people. So we truly are a global company, but our roots are really in Indiana, and particularly in southern Indiana. I wanted to also share our philosophy as a company because I think it helps explain why we're interested in adult education, why we're interested in partnering with our communities and where we live and work. So if you were to go to our website, for the Cook Group website, what you would see, what we say we are, is a family of ethical and entrepreneurial companies that exist to empower people and communities to reach their full potential. And so we've been thinking a lot lately about the people and communities part of that equation. Now we think about that because we've been asking ourselves, how do we use our resources, the talent of all of our people that we have, the opportunities that we provide in our company to do more than just give somebody a job, but actually to help people improve their lives and help improve the life for those in the community as well. So our founder, Bill Cook, always used to say, I heard him say it a lot, was the best thing you can do for somebody is to give them a job. And I think the folks in this phone call probably know as well as anybody that today, if you want to get that job, and you want to give somebody a job, you've got to start with an education. And more it's becoming you have to have a college education, but it's darn near impossible to get a job if you don't have a high school or a high school equivalency. So I think what Bill would say probably today is that the best thing you can do for somebody is give them an education and a job. And that's what we've been thinking a lot about lately. So if you were to look at Cook a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we would have had what we call an old school approach to employee education. And this is probably something you're familiar with, you've seen before. This is what a lot of companies have. It was a program where if you were a Cook employee, you could take some classes, you could enroll, you had to pay for it yourself up front, and then you would take the class, hope you did well, you got a C or better, and then we would reimburse you sometime later. And also we had a provision that if you left, we would try and get that money back. And that presented several problems. One was you had to be an employee, obviously, to get the benefit of it. The other was that when we talked to our employees, what we heard was they couldn't afford to put that money up front, a lot of them. And so that was a real obstacle. So we wanted to think about that. And I want to give you an example of how that played out. So we have lunches with our employees every week. And about 2 years ago, a woman was in this lunch. She was a mom, and she's raised her hand and she said, I've worked at Cook for 30 years now, and I love my job. I love what I do, and I would really like for my son to come work at Cook. The problem is he doesn't have a high school diploma. Is there anything we can do for him? And back then, the problem was, the answer I had to say was no. You can't. All of our jobs require a high school diploma. Go out and get your high school diploma, come back, and we'll see what we can do. Well, that seemed like a stupid answer, right? Because here you are with a woman who has worked for us for 30 years. She wants her son to come work for us. This is exactly the kind of people we want to come and join our company. We have, that's we're trying to grow. So this problem is not really just about one person. It's really a systemic problem. So that woman's son is not unique. So, and all of you know this. You know the statistics probably better than I do. But in Monroe County, where we're based, we have more than 5,000 people without a high school diploma. In southwest central Indiana, we have 29,000 people. So there are lots of people like that woman's son. And obviously the state recognizes this. Governor Holcomb recognizes this. It's one of the priorities for 2018 and beyond is trying to get Hoosiers back to school, getting them their diploma, getting them re-enrolled back in college. And so we've started to think about this not just as a problem, but really an opportunity. Because these folks who don't have this education, a lot of times looking for an opportunity, and they really are our hidden workforce. We have seen this over and over again, that if you can activate them in some way, this is really a group that's looking for an opportunity. So we decided that as an employer, we weren't just going to sit back and wait for employees to show up who were highly trained, highly educated, and ready to work. We were going to be a more active participant, and we were going to flip it and say, come work for us, and we'll get you the education you need to be successful. And that's sort of how we came to our program we call My Cook Pathway. And this approach really has 4 elements to it, and I'll go through each one of those here. So the most important change, I think, was our approach to whether or not you needed a high school diploma to come work for Cook. In the past, all of our jobs, that was an official job requirement. Now what we've said is we've taken away that requirement. We say you have to have a high school equivalency, high school diploma, or you have to be enrolled in our high school equivalency program. And that program is that you come work for us part-time in the morning. So you work from, say, 7 to 12, have lunch. In the afternoon, you go to Broadview Learning Center, one of our great partners down in Monroe County for adult education, and they will educate you, and about 7 weeks later, you can take a test for an HSE. And that has been a terrific program, and sometimes we have people who are successful the first time, and sometimes they don't, but we keep them employed until they are successful and are able to get through that program. As I said, we have wonderful partners in Broadview. Rob Moore and his team do a great job. We actually ended up hiring Barb Browning full-time to work for Cook because we had such a demand for this program. So she now works full-time educating our employees who come through this program. It's a wonderful program for us as an employer because there isn't much of a cost, to be honest. Monroe County covers the cost of the education. The only thing we pay for, aside from our internal costs, are $52 for the test to take. So it's a pretty good value for everybody, I think. And that's how we expand that program. We had, in our first year, we had 20 graduates, and this year, we hope to have more than 100 graduates from the program. So we stopped, or we didn't stop there. So what we found was that people were coming to the company, and a lot of those who were going through the high school program were saying, we want to go further. And then our other employees started saying, yeah, but we want to go further too, because we have our high school diploma already. So we created a partnership with Ivy Tech, and now we can provide a no-cost 2-year associate's degree to our employees. They can go through one of 7 tracks that are related to the business that we do. And Ivy Tech's been a wonderful partner with that. And then for those who want to go beyond a 2-year associate's degree, we have some partners with IU and WGU and some other places. And the big change we made there is that we no longer require reimbursement. We pay upfront directly. So you enroll as a student, we pay directly to the university as soon as you take the class. And that's been a huge change in the program for us. So our value proposition now is that if you come to work for Cook, we say you don't have to have a high school diploma. Come work for us, and we'll take you all the way to a master's degree for less than $2,600 out of pocket for an individual. That's a pretty good value equation for somebody who's looking for an opportunity, not just for a job, but for somebody who wants to advance themselves and really improve their lives and their families' lives. We've had overwhelming success and response, I think. I don't know about success. We've had overwhelming response to the program. So when we had our old school reimbursement program, we had about 65 participants in the program. 1 year later, after we changed it, we had more than 1,000 people enrolled in either high school or some level of post-secondary education. What's been interesting we found is that we expected this to be fairly expensive, and it's turned out to be relatively inexpensive. It's less than $2,000 per person per year who's enrolled in this program. And, really, if you think about it, if we said to somebody or as a company, if you want to invest $2,000, you're going to get an employee who's better skilled, better trained, more capable of taking on more responsibility, and they're going to have incredible loyalty to your company. Would you spend $2,000? That's a pretty good investment. I'm not sure you could spend that $2,000 in any other way that would be as good as that. So I want to share, before we go to the next slide, I want to share a video with you. Hopefully this will work. This is a story about Jim. He was our first person to enroll in our high school education program, and I think he's a really good example of the need that is out there in the community.
Wires inside the wires that I weld are the size of human hairs. We weld the tips of those so they can attach little grabbers and stents and balloons and then run it up into your body. I love the idea that I'm helping.
Oops. It's a very short video.
Yeah. The wires inside the wires that I weld are the size of human hairs. We weld the tips of those so they can attach little grabbers and stents and balloons and then run it up into your body. I love the idea that I'm helping to save lives because I've lost so much in this last year or so. My name's Jameson. I work at Cook Medical. demand at 120%. I started trimming trees back in 1983. I was a senior in high school, and my dad got hurt, so he couldn't work for a long time. I quit school to bring in money. I started having kids about 24. I just didn't have the time or the money to go back to school. It just, life happened. About a year ago, I was laid off from my tree trimming job. I went to Work One and seen this pamphlet for the Cook Pathway High School Equivalency Program. It offers part-time work while you go to school and get your diploma. Then you go to work full-time at Cook. I took it home and I talked to my son about it. He was telling me that I should really give it a good shot because I was at his graduation and he wanted to come to mine, but that didn't come to pass. When I sent my resume in, they called, but I didn't get a chance to tell my son about it because he was killed in an automobile wreck. For the first 2 months, all I was doing was sitting at home and thinking about him, thinking about how I could have done something different. I was pretty messed up over it. Couldn't give me something else to concentrate on by putting me to work and having me study for my GED. Pretty much kept my mind off of what was going on in my life. It's like being in a family. You know, I'd come in here in a bad mood and 10 minutes later they got me laughing and smiling. I was the first one to sign up for the classes. After 10 weeks, got my diploma after being out of school for 35 years. That led to full-time employment at Cook. And what got me to go to this pathway program was my son, Jay. You know, I thank my son for this every day. I told him it was for him. I found my passion and drive to get my diploma. Cook provided a pathway for me.
So we're really proud of what Jim has accomplished. He has become a wonderful ambassador for our program. He goes around and talks to people all the time. He wants to be at the first class when new students are enrolled to tell them about the program and what it's meant to him. He's really exceptional. I think that's just sort of an example of there's lots of gyms out there in Indiana who are looking for an opportunity. And so that's why we've been trying to figure out a way to do this. As I said, you know the numbers better than I do. There are a lot of people in Indiana who are looking for an opportunity, and there are more people than what we as Cook can help. As much as we can scale the program, we can't go after 475,000 people. You guys are doing great work. I was looking at your numbers and watching your enrollments. That's incredible. But I think you also need help, and we all need partners in industry who are willing to step up and be active participants in educating their workforce and their next generation of workforce. So I want to give you some thoughts about if you maybe have an idea of an employer in your area who might be interested in doing something similar or working in this area. The first thing I would suggest is that people really need to find jobs in their system that can be filled with a high school diploma. Look at your system and say, where are the jobs that have a requirement for a high school diploma? And then change that. And stop saying you need a high school diploma. Start saying, we're going to get you a high school diploma if you come work for us. And then I think you can use that. And once you do that, you can make that as a tool for recruiting. If you listen to the radio, and I do this a lot, I listen to the radio, and what I hear people advertising for jobs. And they'll talk about how great the job is, and then they'll say, the only requirement is you have to have a high school diploma. Now I always wonder, why do they say that? Why not say, you don't even need a high school diploma to come work for us? Because it wouldn't be that hard to get them. It would only take a few weeks, in many cases. Now, some people are going to need a lot longer help, but we're finding there are lots of people who are able to, within 7 to 10 weeks, able to get the HSU. I want to give you an example of how recruiting effectively works. So you probably have heard lately that people say that unemployment's at an all-time low, that we're at a full employment economy. et cetera, et cetera. Every time I hear it, I don't believe it. And what I think is that people are employed, but they're employed in sort of jobs without a future or jobs that don't have much potential for a career. And the reason I think this is because we did an experiment. So after we implemented our program, last October, we went out and we spent a little money and advertised on local radio and on Facebook. And we said, come to Cook, and we'll get you the education you need. We'll get you a high school diploma. Talk all about our education program. And we had 200 jobs we were trying to fill. And these were our entry-level starter production jobs, just entry-level. So start at $10.50 an hour, full benefits, full-time. But we also talked a lot about the education benefits. So we had 200 jobs we wanted to fill. In 5 weeks, we had 1,400 people apply for these jobs. So what that tells me, I think, is, and we talked to these people, they were all working somewhere else. They were just looking for an opportunity to improve their lives and their families' lives, something with an opportunity for a future. Their suggestion, I would say, and you know this obviously because you are those resources, but Indiana has a tremendous network of adult education partners. Everywhere I go, I find people who are just really passionate and really capable of this. So as an employer, it's very, very easy to reach out and find your local partner. And our experience with Broadview and Monroe County was that we called, and the next morning they were there ready to figure out how we could do this. Tremendous partners in that. So I always encourage people to reach out. But I also find that most employers don't know this. That's something I think maybe all you could work on too, is really reaching out to your corporate partners and explaining to them what that benefit. It's really a benefit for them and for their employees. The other thing I would say is it doesn't cost much to promote this, and the most effective way is social media and radio. We had tremendous, in our area in particular, it was country radio that really got the most reception. We had people, we actually had, on Facebook, we had a woman show up to our hiring event. And that, by the way, that 5-week period, we had one Saturday where we did an in-person event. We had 600 people show up before 6 a.m. to get in line for the opportunity. One person came from Canada because she saw it on Facebook. So, I mean, it shows you there is a pent-up demand for this type of education. But social media is a very low-cost, highly effective way, especially for people who are in that period of looking for an education and a job. The other thing I would say is that consider, for your employers, to consider partnering with Ivy Tech. They have a wonderful program called Achieve Your Degree. It allows you to cover the cost of your employees' education and associate's degree. And the thing about that is that, for a lot of those employees who are in that starter position, a lot of them qualify for federal or state aid, so it offsets some of the cost of what it would cost the employer. Then the other thing is to remove the biggest barrier, really getting people to think about removing that prepay, or removing that reimbursement part of their program and making it a prepay program. And then we talk about taking away the golden handcuffs. We have found that once you put a contract in place that says somebody has to repay you, it changes the social dynamic of the situation. People feel like it's a give and take as opposed to, we want to be a partner with you. And look, if Cook's not the right place for you, we'd love for it to be, but if it's not, we now have somebody in our community who is better educated and more employable, and that's good for everybody. So it changes the dynamic, and people, when you take away the golden handcuffs, it really increases the loyalty to the company. And as people are thinking about maybe implementing programs like this, one of the things that we found is that it's really crucial, especially for the high school students, that you allow them to work part-time in that period where they're studying for their HSE. And that's because what we found is most of them have kids, and that daycare options are usually 8 to 5, somewhere in there. So if you can keep in that schedule as they're going through it, it really makes it a viable option for them. We've created internally mentors and program advocates who can go out and talk to those people. This is a highly emotional issue for people. I think it's underestimated, probably not by you folks, but by a lot of people. It's underestimated how hard of an emotional issue it is for people to go back to school after so long. Jim talks about that a lot. After 35 years, to go back and try and do the math portion is a really scary and daunting proposition. And then the other thing I tell people, especially in corporations, is there's a lot of bad news in the world. It seems like there's a lot of tough things going on. But if you want to feel good about the world for a while, you should go attend an adult education graduation because the people that are there graduating have really overcome a lot, and they're really incredible people, and you can tell that they are very excited and inspired about what they're going to do with their lives. Go ahead. The other objection sometimes we get to this is sometimes companies say, well, this sounds very expensive. I don't think we can afford to do this. And that's great for a company the size of Cook, but for a smaller company, we can't do it. But as I said, it costs us less than $2,000 per employee, and it really does cost you, it costs us and everybody much less than you think. And that's because I think Indiana does a wonderful job of creating incentives and resources for companies and students who are looking to further their education. So recently, Indiana passed a bill that now reimburses you $500 for every student that you get an HSE. So if you're an employer and you help a student get an HSE, you get $500 back to cover the cost of that program. That's a great incentive, and I think it really, in our experience, really does cover the cost of that. Once you have an employee, there's a lot of grants to cover the training, ongoing training for that employee. If they're interested, and if your employer, as an employer, you require certificates, there's money for that. The Achieve Your Degree program at Ivy Tech is wonderful and helps us, really has been a tremendous asset for us. And then skill enhancement funds, there's money for that as well. So over the lifespan of an employee, there really is money available to people to help you as an employer and help the employees get the education they need to be successful. So got two more slides here, but I would just say that we are very passionate about this at Cook. I'm personally passionate about it. I get to have lunch and I meet with the graduates of our program every few months, and it's changed that the work that you all are doing is not just change for one person's life, it's change of their family, and it's a generational change. These folks say all the time, almost to a person, I want my kid to see the value of the education. I want them to know they need to go to school. So that one person changes the lives of multiple people down the generation. I know you know this because you see it all the time. But we're happy. We'd love to be an example. I'll travel anywhere in the state. I'll talk anywhere about this. If you have an employer who's thinking about doing it, I'm happy to call them or talk to them about the program, what they want to do. So please use us. You can contact Kim Rolfing, and then my email address will also be there at the end. But we'd be happy to do whatever we can to help. I want to end just by sharing one more story. This is somebody else we're very proud of. Her name is Nicole. She's also part of the high school program. Again, another really good example of the need that's out there.
Bill Cook was really fond of saying there's nothing more important than giving someone a job, and he certainly did that.
And now, even after his death, the company he created is finding new ways to make people whole. Tonight on Only in Indiana are Kevin Rader and photographer Bill Riley explained in their story called Second Chance. Nicole Cowens could hardly believe her good fortune. Clad in a blue sterilization gown, you could never tell that just a few years ago she was pregnant with a child, without a high school degree, and without direction in her life.
It was kind of scary, but at the same time, I was like, okay, I'm 21 years old. I got to get out of mom's house with my baby, and then I was pregnant with my second child at the time, so I just had to do what a grown-up, responsible person is supposed to do.
So she left Chicago for Indiana, where a help-wanted ad just caught her eye.
And I thought I was, like, reading wrong at first, so I opened it up, and then I read more about it, and it said that, you know, they help you get your GED. All you have to do is, like, go to school 4 days out the week. I was like, that sounds good, you know.
It was an ad for the Pathway program at Cook Medical. It was not a handout, but a hand up for the 5,000 Hoosiers without high school degrees currently in Monroe County alone. So we created a program where they can come work part-time at Cook, and then in the morning, and then in the afternoon they go, with no charge to them, they can go get their high school equivalency over about a 7-week period. And then they get to come back and have a full-time job at Cook. But Nicole saw more than an ad. She saw an opportunity. So she took it.
And I mean, it's been plenty of times that I wanted to give up, but my teacher, she's like, you know, Nicole, you got it. Just, you know, don't beat yourself up about it. You got it. It's going to be okay. I believe you can pass it. And just her telling me those simple words, because I've never had a teacher tell me that when I was in high school. So just her telling me those simple words gave me the strength to keep going.
She attended Monroe County adult education classes at Ivy Tech just up the street from Cook.
She's left me quite a few messages on my phone saying how much I gave her confidence and that she wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for me. And so it just really, she touched my heart.
I heard Phil say one time, the greatest thing you can do for somebody is give them a job.
I don't think no other company would have thought to do something like this, especially to help people who don't have. I think it's just amazing that they did something like this to help other people.
You go back and balance your family and life and bills, and you go back to school and you can see the change every day in that person's life. What more can you ask for? Now she said to graduate with her degree. And it just changes their lives, them and their children and their families, so you can see the impact immediately. Her children certainly did when they noticed she wasn't wearing her fast food uniform.
When I told them I was going to work, and then they realized I didn't have on, like, my uniform, they was like, Mommy, well, I thought you said you were going to work. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work, but I don't work there anymore.
No, now she works in Bloomington. Kevin Rader, Channel 13, Eyewitness News.
I love that, how the legacy continues there. Right now, Nicole, the 17th student to successfully complete that pathway program.
It changed her life. Way to go.
And her children.
You bet.
Right.
You know.
So we're proud of Nicole too. She does a wonderful job. She's actually thinking about, all of them are thinking about, and some of them actually started to enroll at Ivy Tech. A lot of them want to take a break after HSE because they feel like they need a mental break, but then they start thinking about the next step. So I just want to end by saying there's my email address. We would love, if you have ideas of how we can improve our program, we'd love to hear it because we're always trying something different. If there are other companies in your area who are maybe doing some innovative things, we'd love to hear about it. And again, I'd be happy to talk to anybody anytime about this because we're very passionate about it. So just want to end by saying thank you to all of you. Thank you for the work that you do. I think it's absolutely critical for the future of Indiana. More importantly, I think it's critical for the future of the more than 1 million people in Indiana who don't have the education they're going to need to be successful in the next 10 or 20 years. So thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Pete. As we switch back, I want to take you back to earlier this morning. Jerry discussed our enrollment numbers and the national trend in declining adult education enrollment. I believe, as we have done in the past, Indiana can show the rest of the nation how to turn this trend around using innovative outreach strategies to recruit students into our programs. Neil Richmond has spent the last year working with the Wayne Township Adult Education Program to improve their recruitment efforts. I'll let Neil share more about his work and options your program may have in outreach. Neil?
Thank you, Marilyn. Good morning, everybody, wherever you may be today. I hope the day is going well for you. I want to start by introducing Kim to you a little bit here. Kim's story is one that I believe has been replicated over and over again on a regular basis, hopefully with a good ending. So my wife and I met Kim as we were shopping for a recliner for my mother-in-law, actually. And as is often the case, I'm more concerned about getting the recliner, and my wife is more concerned about talking with the person she's working with. And so through that process, she discovered that Kim had just started a program in Anderson, I believe it was, to become a dental assistant. And as soon as she said those words, my wife and I looked at each other because we knew that with the Wayne Township program, that she could have come into that program and got her certification. So we talked with her a little bit more, and we found out that Kim had a year to go through her program that she had chosen, that it was going to cost her $10,000. And again, we sort of looked at each other and said, oh, if only we had met you a few months earlier, if only we had had a chance to have a conversation, you could have come over and done this program with us, potentially at no cost and in a much shorter time period, so you could stop selling recliners and get to where you want to be. Sad Kim in the end there. But here's the problem, and I say it this way, Houston, we do have a problem, because there are potential students for your programs that are nearby and are waiting. They're actually wanting something that you have to offer. The problem is they have no idea that you exist. And so most programs that I have talked to, and I was at IAAC and talked to a lot of different people and spent time since then, have the capabilities to have more students in their program. They just don't know how to find the students. Well, let me tell you a little about me. As Marilyn said, I'm Neil Richmond. Just in case you missed it, I'm not from around here. Hopefully the little country in the bottom left corner there will give you an indicator. I'm from Australia. That's not a New Zealand flag. That's an Australian flag. I get funny things like that all the time. But I've been here for 28 years, and I've lived in Indiana the last 12. I was in education myself, majority of my career. I was a high school teacher, and I lived to tell the story. But I was also in ministry and have worked with young people and have been involved in careers where I'm working to better people's lives for the majority of my life. And so I'm as passionate about this as anything that I've ever done. I switched over to the world of marketing in 2006 and had my own publication and began to learn that businesses really needed some guidance with the direction that they're taking and how they're attracting new customers in. In the middle at the top there, you'll see a picture of my lovely wife, Amy, and she's working with one of the students. She's one of the teachers at Wayne Township Adult Education, and our 3 kids there that you'll see. We have high school kids ourselves now, and as she was involved with Wayne Township and talking about things, they sort of gave her a role to work on attracting new students, especially in the career training side of things. And I think they had an eye to the fact that I might lend a couple of suggestions as we went through that. Well, as the years gone on, we've been able to have a lot of fun doing this together and attract a bunch of new students, and I'll tell you some of those stories in a little bit later. But that also led to us creating adult education marketing strategies because we're passionate together, Amy and myself, to help programs look at the whole concept of bringing in new students in a fresh way. And we've certainly had some great success running with that this year with Wayne Township. So I feel like we can bring a unique blend of education and marketing expertise to the table as we're working with programs. Here's one thing I'm convinced of, though. You cannot achieve your goals without looking at some of these strategies to reintroduce, and I use that word very carefully. It's a big part of the strategy that we have, reintroducing adult education to your community. But here's the challenge with that. We want to focus on this career training side of things, but we don't want to forget about the HSE and the ELA programs as well. Because what's key to this is that we want to pre-qualify students. So you're not just bringing in a whole bunch of students and shooting those numbers that Jerry just shared a little bit ago in the foot by people not qualifying. And so we've worked very hard to look at the process of how you do this so that you can achieve both objectives on that side of things. The strategy we've come up with is called RIPE, and I'll walk you through the 4 pieces of that to give you an idea of how you could implement this in your program. So the 4 letters represent reintroduce, inform, pre-qualify, and enroll. So let me talk you through them just a little bit here then. So let's start with the reintroduce part of the strategy. I like to use this next little image because I think it's funny. But you know how you've worn the name tags. I feel like sometimes adult education programs should be wandering around the community saying, "Hello, my name is Adult Ed." Or if I was going more the James Bond path, it would be Ed, Adult Ed, right? It's because I know the story of Kim is just one of many that we've encountered this year, and I know that those of you listening are familiar with those stories. People have a misconception of what adult ed is and have eradicated things that they could potentially gain from the program from their mind. And so we want to work on reintroducing the concept of, if you like, the new adult ed. You know, so you need to talk about who you are now, what you can do, but you also need to talk about what you are not. And again, I'm going to share some stories at the end, just briefly to show you some of the scenarios that we've gone through this year as we've approached this topic. So step number one is reintroducing that, and really that comes in a lot of different forms, but social media is certainly one of them. But don't forget the traffic that goes by your program buildings on a daily basis. What could you be doing right out in front of your building? What could you be doing with your school districts? What could you be doing, just even thinking about the students you have in your building and the staff that are represented in your program? What could you be doing and having them do on a regular basis that would reintroduce adult ed to your community? Step two in this process is inform. Okay, so what is that all about? Well, you know your program, and you want to make sure everybody else knows about it, and that's all the stakeholders. So within your adult ed program, I've done, you know, as a teacher for many years, I knew that there were people, especially when I was involved with marketing the schools I was at private schools, and so I was involved in this for quite a few years. I knew that there were teachers within our program who, if push came to shove, they had to tell the story of the school to somebody fresh out there, would have no idea how to say it, or would completely blow the opportunity. And so I would challenge you to think about how you can work with your administrative staff, your life coaches, the teachers, the paras, and most importantly, I would say the front desk personnel, to explain what your program is, and to explain it in a really short and succinct way that gets people to make a decision right there and then, whether or not this is for them or not, and whether or not they know someone who this program could be a fit for. And with their career training, the conversation looks a lot like people who are looking to improve their careers, improve their lives. Here are opportunities to do that. And then within the community, we need to be informing as well, and you know, K-12 school parents. You know, Section 8 housing. What could you do to go into some of those places? Food pantries, the summer lunch programs this summer. And as the summer sort of moves on and we get back to school, these back to school supply drives. To not obviously directly be reaching those younger students, but to be looking for the families who are represented by those individuals there, who may very well be a great fit for your program. Letting them know what's out there, letting them know what's available. One of the things that we produce that is really handy is a one-sheet overview of all the different opportunities. And we, you know, we're breaking it down into three main categories. Do you want to learn English? Do you need to improve your educational skills? Or do you need some career training? And then let people sort of make some choices from there. The other part of this that is key is the website component. And I'm very passionate about this. I believe websites today are the vehicle to so many more opportunities, and too many organizations are ignoring their website. Just simply from the fact that you can hit websites still today, and on your mobile phone, they're a pain in the neck to view. Most people just go away. But we use the website specifically to give people early access to information and to sign up, and make available through other mechanisms, printable flyers, referral cards, business cards that can be communicated out in the community as well, sharing on social media. And all of those methods all point back to the website as the clear, concise, and easy to understand place to navigate through to the offerings that you have. I did, before IAACE, I did a tour, I like to call it, of adult education websites around the state. And I might have had a tear in my eye like I did earlier on in our slides here, because I know what programs have to offer, but I did not see a lot of websites that communicated that very clearly. Or if they did, you had to be like, you know, Sherlock Holmes to find it somewhere on the website. So I really would challenge you to take a look at that. Take a look at it with fresh eyes. How can you find these people? And through this process, to really get that information out and let them know. The next step in this is to pre-qualify. And this is the big difference maker, I think, because as we look at this, the caution is, look, when you reintroduce and you inform the community about the programs, you've got to be sure that you are generating the right sort of people. You can generate too many, and you could be overwhelmed. I know there are probably some programs going, I wish I had that problem. But we did one little experiment early on in the year with Wayne Township that led to our website getting hit so hard with inquiries following a call that was made that the process of filtering through them was extremely difficult. And so that led us to change our strategy. Our strategy now is to put people through a number of steps before we start introducing the programs so that they can pre-qualify themselves. And if they are not a good fit, drop out. And so one of the things we've done is we've created these information sessions, which give an opportunity to get to know the students and the students to know you before there's a commitment. And that's a key component in the overall strategy. And these sessions usually are offered 2 or 3 times, different times of the day, but they are designed to see who's willing to commit. And then they're designed to educate people on the next steps that they will take in the program if they're willing to take the next step of the journey with them. The other thing that's key to all of this is to try to create employability experiences. I love what Cook Medical had to say. The whole idea of that program is really what we're trying to convey to businesses out there. But in the whole process of this, how can we walk students through a pre-qualification process that involves employability skills and real work on their part? So they are learning about these careers and opportunity as they're going through this process, which is making them even more hireable. Great example of that is the Parapro program, where the students are spending part of their time in a classroom setting learning and preparing for that. The other part of it is literally being out there in the classrooms, in the schools, and going through a few different schools together so that the experience is had at the same time as them going through the process of getting their certification. And the side benefit of that, most of them are getting snapped up for jobs immediately as they get finished with the program. And then the next piece of this, you've got to have a process in place on the testing for locator and tape. Be transparent with these potential students what qualifies them, and have an alternative pathway for those that don't qualify. One of the things that I've loved that we've done in these strategies is we haven't just left it to the students to sort of wander through this on their own. They are being guided through the process to get the funding, to find the pathways that will work best for them. Let them know the process, let them know about the test, and that you will walk through them, through them the whole way there. That is important as well. And then to look at the barrier busting side of things. Have students meet with life or career coaches. Have them discuss the barriers that might stand in the way and how those can be broken down. And what we've found is this can cause students to filter into the HSC or the ELL programs for remediation, and then the next round that career training is offered, they are now ready to jump right into that program. Okay, the last part of our RIPE acronym is enroll. And so now we want them to take the next step with all of this. And by this time, you know the students, they know you, which means that they'll be enrolled in the most appropriate program, and the students will be the most qualified. The result of this, obviously, is a boost in enrollment, but really a boost in actually completing, whether it's the HSC, the ELL, or the career training. And that's the ultimate goal of this, is not just look at how we can drive as many people through the front door, but push people out through the other door at the end with a nice piece of paper in hand saying that they've done the job as well. So that's a quick overview of this RIPE strategy that we've implemented this year and are working to continue to refine and then implement some more into some other programs here as well. And again, high level, I'm not diving in deep with all the details on this. I'll tell you in a minute here how you can get a hold of me if you want to chat about this a little bit more. But to sort of tie this up here, I wanted to tell a few student stories today. Here are pictures of 4 of the stories that I want to tell to you a little bit here from recent graduation for Wayne Township. So the first student here is Betsy. Betsy found out about the program from Facebook, a Facebook ad actually, that we were running. She had no idea this was available. She'd never heard about the program. She'd never heard that there was free training available, potentially. But at graduation, she was able to walk on the stage having received a certification for medical assisting as a result of that. The next story here is Kay and Caitlin. And so Kay happens to be my mother-in-law, who actually started the journey for school like 40-something years ago and had children, my wife being one of those, that derailed that. And so this year she came back and she was able to get through and achieve an objective in her life to graduate from high school through with a high school equivalency program. And we celebrated that a couple of weeks ago. With her is Caitlin, and Caitlin is 17. She and Kay, they did the class together with all of this, and so she became Grandma Kay to Caitlin as well. Caitlin was a high school student who just was not enjoying school and was not doing well and was really struggling and through a number of things had dropped out and just did not know where she was headed next. She was introduced to the HSE program for Wayne Township through some of the marketing efforts that we had. She came, she accomplished that, and she even loved it so much that she went one step further and got her Microsoft Office Specialist certification as well. And it was great to celebrate with them at graduation together as well. Then there was Scott. Scott actually was a high school graduate, but he just was not interested and not motivated at all. He even had some special ed challenges there while he was in school, and so education was not something that he was particularly interested in all, but he was doing nothing. And according to his mother, who's on the right in this picture here, was doing nothing with his life. She happened to be a hairdresser at the salon where my wife was getting her haircut, talking to her hairdresser about the program that she's in and passionate about. She overheard that and said, "Hey, I know somebody who should be in that program." And Scott joined. He now has his medical assistant, certified medical assistant certification, and is excited about the next chapter in his life. And here Adult Ed gave him another opportunity and an opportunity to get into something that he could be interested in. By the way, my wife was back at that salon this week and talking with her about Scott, and there was a lady in the chair next to her who heard this conversation and has already signed up for classes coming because of this. My wife, you just put her out on the street walking around talking to people and she'll recruit a whole bunch of people if she can. That's the passion that she has for this. Last story I want to share with you, this is Sandra. Sandra actually was one of the speakers at the graduation. She is from Peru and first found out about the Adult Ed program because she needed to learn English, and so got involved through that process. In the middle of all of that, she was introduced to an organization here locally that was able to help her to get her U.S. citizenship. Again, not something you'd maybe traditionally think about in terms of adult ed programs, but here she was able to get that. That led to her joining into the HSE program. And then once she got done with that, she was introduced and did the paraprofessional is now actually hired as a para with Wayne Township in the adult ed program, using her language skills and the things that she has learned throughout of this. Here's the thing. All of the people that I've shared these stories with, in one way or another, were found out about the adult ed program from your non-traditional pathways. Through some of the efforts that we put out during this past year to attract new students, they found out about it, and their life is different today than it was prior to finding out about this program. So that's the challenge I want to leave with you today. How can you reach more students and make an impact on more lives? If you're interested in a little bit more on that, want to know how you can attract more students to your program, it's fairly simple. I just tell you, go to adultedmarketing.com. On there, you can click the button to schedule a call with me, or you can click the chat button down the bottom. I have a lot of people that chat to me on a regular basis through the website there. I enjoy doing that, and I'll be back in touch with you, and we can start a conversation about how we can maybe help reintroduce your program to your community to make a greater impact on the lives of those potential students out there. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Neil. We appreciate all that good information. I too can kind of be like you, because folks out there, some folks think I have a slight accent as well. So,
We're from the South.
Yes, from the South, yeah. Moving on, we have Nancy, Dan, and Jose here this morning. I believe that Dan is going to be the spokesperson. He's going to give you some professional development updates. Dan?
Yes, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Before I give some general updates, I would like to refer back to this whole presentation that Neil talked about. And as we've traveled the state and with our previous presentations and working with the PDS, we keep talking about orientations. What do orientations involve? And as we found, I think in the past, we've always been worried about getting them in the door, getting 12 hours, and slamming the test at them. And we've been trying to say over and over with Marva, because I will always continue to channel Marva, is that, orientation is a lot more than that. And I think that it is getting to know the students and letting the students know what's involved before they actually take that test. Because what do they need to have? What requirements do we have? There's a lot of goals involved. And we keep saying over and over, we've been sharing all of the contacts of all the PDS and directors around the state. We're also sharing as well data and so forth. And your best PD you will ever do is visiting your peers. Neil has been working with his wife, Christy, which is in my area region. I've watched them as they have changed so much this year. And they've done some incredible things. They've been able to navigate, as Neil said, we tried this, and we had to tweak this, and it's like, why recreate a wheel? I mean, if I were out there still coordinating a program, I would be on speed dial, I'd be on chat with Neil nonstop. Because the thing is that we want, and I like the whole concept of the right and the pre-qualifying, which is a different term, but at first I was thinking, that kind of sounded like, kind of weird, but then I thought, no, it really is, because we're all pre-qualifying each other. We're going to make sure, are they on the right track? As Cook was saying, they need that high school diploma. Eventually, they will need it. But then what is their track? It may be getting that job, going into training. And we've always said that Work Indiana IETs, the whole idea is that if they could be doing both at the same time, and it does become difficult, but they have to know all this at the very beginning. So I would really, I can't stress too much that you really need to do some contacting, and I think Neil has offered himself free. I believe, Neil, you're not charging, are you, yet?
Not to have a conversation.
Not to have a conversation. But I think, it's something to really think about, because we did have over 6,000 students in the state of Indiana who started adult ed and for whatever reason didn't pre-qualify. Since we are the ones inviting them in, I think the onus is upon us, first of all, to simply to take that step. But thanks so much, Neil, and it piggybacked, I think, so well with what Cook is doing. And the whole idea is, I know now with people trying to use IET funds and WEI funds, and we really do need to start educating the businesses. And with Cook being obviously wanting to be a representative, we've got support people out there. So anyways, back to just real quickly now with adult ed or with our PD project. We've now completed the first year of the PDF project. It's gone extremely well. And we truly believe the reason why we are at 60+% is because of the hard work that we have worked with the PDFs, the directors, and the state staff. And we have all of our PDFs, for the most part, coming back. And we're going to have a few new ones, and we're still waiting for a few applications to come in. All of our PD plans for the upcoming 2018-19 year have been submitted, and they have all, for the most part, been accepted. And it went so much quicker because from learning what everyone did last year, the plans that came in this year, most of them were, can I say flawless a little bit now? I like to be optimistic going. There was some tweaking but the thing was that you guys knew exactly where some of you made notes saying, this is what we have, we know it's a draft, and we know we have to keep working on it. And that's the best thing to hear, because these plans should be like living documents and so forth. So we'll be getting with the PDFs and directors. We're hoping to have our first kickoffs for this year during August, like we did last year. We'll let you know more. Also, we're going to have a number of state PD opportunities, but we'll get with those to you fairly shortly to let you know what they will be, because since we've done this last year, we got a good start this year, so we won't be waiting until maybe November, December, January to get going. So, but anyways, it's been an incredible experience, for all of us here at the state office and looking with the PD team. And I talked a little bit more than you expected, Marilyn. Or maybe she was expecting this, but she finally got it.
Thank you very much, Dan. Let's move on to grants, and Scott is here, and he has some comments about the grant continuation and competition. Scott?
Good afternoon. Well, not quite afternoon, everyone. I am conscious of your time, so I'll keep this brief. We have sent out all of your award letters for both the ABE and IELCE continuation grants. We have also included your revised budget. Donna, do we have all of those?
Yes, we do.
We have all of those. That's great. So we'll send those upstairs, and we'll work on getting you guys contracts for next year. Expect a quarterly report sometime in the near future, but I'll talk to you guys more about that later, and I'll turn this back over to Marilyn.
All right. I think some of you know, but in case not all of you are aware, our former Work Indiana manager, Nathan Storm, has accepted a position as staff to the new workforce cabinet, and we are excited to announce that Jessica Gray has assumed the role of our Work Indiana manager. Jessica worked closely with Nathan over the last year and is ready for the challenge of managing the Work Indiana program. Jessica is unable to be with us today due to a Work Indiana commitment in the field, but I am sure you will see and hear from her in the near future. We will be replacing Jessica's position as the IET WEI coordinator in the near future, and we'll update you once we've done that. Donna?
Good morning, everyone. This is Donna Lovelady, and I will be your designated Jessica Gray for today. Okay. You'll see on the slide the latest IET numbers. We have over 200 approved programs and 1,403 enrolled. Going forward into 2018-19 year, the new IET and IELCE applications will not need to be submitted for already approved courses. Programs may utilize the rollover function in Enters to carry over the course name and students. Any courses rolled over from 2017-18 must utilize the same curriculum that was previously approved. If a program chooses to make changes to an approved curriculum, a new application and curriculum will be required. A friendly reminder, if a student completes an IET but continues on with adult education coursework, the additional adult ed course hours will need to be tracked in the appropriate adult ed course in Enters and not the IET course. Over the course of the past year, we have learned a great deal about IETs, and we now have a better picture of how to satisfy federal requirements and meet our local needs. IET and IELCE requirements will not change for the 2018-19 year. The expectations and standards of allowable applications and curricula have, however, evolved. Any new IET or IELCE applications will be held to these new standards. When you receive the follow-up email for this webinar, please review slide 66 for the key components and IET, IELCE application and curriculum should demonstrate. Now that we have almost a full year of IET experience, we will be going back and reviewing those earlier applications to make sure they align with current expectations and standards. A quick reminder and update, final invoices must be submitted within 45 days after the end of the grant or when the grant closeout packet is submitted. Speaking of closeouts, you'll want to watch for your closeout packets to arrive the week of June 18th, that's next week, and they will be coming from our DWD Finance office. They are due back in on or before August 15th. Be sure to copy our office when submitting all closeouts, the Work Indiana to their mailbox and ABE, IELCE to the Adult Ed mailbox. Another reminder, TANF grant expiration is September 30th, 2018. The 2018-19 Work Indiana RFA is complete. Award letters were issued June 8th. Be on the lookout for your grant contracts and be sure to sign and submit back to DWD. As part of this year's grant, all grantees are required to attend a professional development event. Listed are the available days and sites for these trainings. All 3 trainings will cover the same information and take 1 day. This training is open to all Work Indiana grantees, but is mandatory for 2018-19 grantees. All attendees must RSVP to Work Indiana at dwd.in.gov. Training sites have limited seating, and grantees should limit attendees to grant, fiscal, and data contacts. Thanks to everyone who submitted Work Indiana success stories. We are excited to move forward with this project. We are confident that these stories will demonstrate our grantees' devotion, our students' dedication, and how the Work Indiana program has helped provide these opportunities to individuals. A few quick points on TABE and Work Indiana. Work Indiana and Adult Ed require a valid TABE score for participation and enrollment. TABE 11 and 12 is the valid assessment beginning July 1st. TABE 9 and 10 is the valid assessment prior to that date. If students are still enrolled in Adult Ed classes beginning July 1st, they will need to be retested using TABE 11 and 12. If Work Indiana students are no longer enrolled in Adult Ed as of July 1st, there is no need to re-TABE them unless they return to Adult Ed classes. So Nathan has officially entered his new position as staff to the Workforce Cabinet. Please begin to submit all your questions to Jessica Gray or directly to the Work Indiana email. And also please note the new telephone number for Work Indiana. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donna. Matt and Brent are here this morning, and Matt will give you a report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to be even quicker than Scott. So everybody was told earlier about errors. If you run your Table 4 audit and you see the words duplicate students, please ignore those. They are supposed to be there. Do not email Brent and I to fix those duplicate students. Please, don't. It's a lot of time that you don't need to spend. Other than that, we will be available on BOMGAR as our normal hours and be able to help you with any of your other errors. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Matt. We have Roy Melton here today. He's our AEC for Region 4. He's going to present on behalf of Youth Initiative some updates for them. Roy?
Thank you. The Young Adult Services Monthly Report from data pulled in Indiana Career Connect shows some interesting things as we near the end of the program year. Data holds firm from previous months that 65% of youth on caseloads entered as out of school. The most interesting trend the last month was that of credential attainment. Youth receiving a credential relative to all youth on a caseload rose 3% from 13 to 16 this past month. Also, of the 2,736 youth participants added this fiscal year, nearly 32% came in as high school dropouts. The following chart depicts new youth participants served this fiscal year, broken out by region to gain an idea of the rate at which we're serving youth across the state. If you have any additional questions regarding this report or would like to see different charts generated through it, please contact Bart Doan, B-D-O-A-N, at dwd.in.gov. Okay. Go back to the. Okay. For the fourth consecutive year, JAG hit the prestigious 5 out of 5 mark, which signifies success across JAG nationally expected performance outcomes. Additionally, for the first time in state history, all 12 economic growth regions hit their own 5 out of 5 marks. This is an amazing accomplishment with a lot of folks work around the state hard to achieve. JAG Indiana finished the year with a graduation rate of 95%, a job placement rate of 73%, a positive outcome rate of 88%, a full-time placement of 90%, and a total in full-time jobs at 75%. All of these were well above the expected mark. JAG National set as goals. Additionally, the alternative education programs also saw a 5 out of 5 achievement. We're thankful to all those who contribute to making the JAG program work great, and we are thrilled that so many young people continue to find success at record rates through JAG. Thank you all. Thank you to all of you on the adult education team that have helped in partnering with JAG over the past year as well.
And thank you very much, Roy. It has been a long morning, but we hope we've shared a lot of good information and a lot of good success over the past year. So thank you very much for your patience. We are moving our statewide webinar back 1 week in July. It will be July 18th from 10 to 11:30. Please join us at that time. As I said, initially we'll be going over the new NRF tables during this webinar, so please be sure to attend. Again, thank you so much for your patience. Have a great afternoon.